DevSecOps, like it started out so good, Alexandra. It seemed
Mm.
fantastic. It's really good at creating this giant backlog. We're getting better at giving a bit more context. You can decide what you do and do want to fix, but it's still not finding like lots of things that attackers can still find. I feel though, if an automated tool can pick it up like that, you absolutely need to fix it, right?
Welcome to Season 4 of The Elephant in AppSec, the podcast to explore, challenge, and boldly face the AppSec elephants in the room. I'm Alexandra, your host, AppSec enthusiast, and growth manager at Escape. Today, I'm joined once again by Tanya Janca for her second appearance on the podcast. Her first episode was a hit, so I figured, why not record another? And the timing couldn't be better, as Tanya has just embarked on a brand new chapter in her career. In our initial conversation, I highlighted many of Tanya's accomplishments, and she's only added to the list since then. Most notably, she's been deeply involved in shaping key components of the newly released OWASP Top 10. In this episode, we dive into the initiatives she's focusing on in her solo journey, why she decided to join the OWASP Top 10 team, her mission to create a developer-focused awareness document, and even the unexpected difficulty of naming vulnerabilities for the finalists. We also chat about her take on why DevSecOps has started to lose some of its shine, something she'll be discussing further at the upcoming The Elephant in AppSec conference. If you enjoy this podcast, don't forget to subscribe and follow it on your favorite podcasting app or YouTube. It's the best way to avoid missing future episodes. And with that, get ready to hear Tanya's opinions. Dive right in. Hi Tanya, I'm very excited to have you on the Elephant in AppSec podcast again. I think the previous episode was a hit. It's one of the most, I think, watched episodes of the last season. So that was actually great to see. And a lot of people, I think, throughout the season recommended your book, even after your appearance. And I can still see, sometimes on LinkedIn. So I think you're really loved in the industry, and that's great to see. So you always have a lot of controversial opinions, so that's also great. And now you started, a new chapter for yourself. I saw a lot of people supported you, and I'm very excited for you, and also for the AppSec industry to have running their more and more their programs. How did it start? How did you come to that realization that you want to start on your own journey?
Well, I've actually been an entrepreneur since basically as soon as I was legal.
Yeah.
So you're allowed to start a company when you're 18 in Canada. And so I started one at 19. And
Okay.
it was a concert and music record label. And I was my only artist. Then eventually I had other artists that I would book various concerts all over town and do promotions. Then I bought my first investment property and I was a landlord. I was a landlord actually up until last year.
Okay.
I actually ran a yoga company for a while where I would send yoga teachers into really large office buildings at lunchtime, and they would just clear out a giant boardroom, and then everyone would just do yoga with them.
Okay. I mean, I actually had that at one of the companies I worked at. We've had that for not really long time, but some time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been doing running my own businesses most of my life, and then often also having a full-time job. And so some grad bought my company, and I don't know if you're familiar, but often when a company gets bought, you're supposed to stay a certain amount of time and do a certain number of things. And so I did all the things that I was supposed to do. I felt like I accomplished it, and they agreed. That's important that I did all the things I was supposed to do. And then I'm working there and I'm like, you know what? I miss working for myself. When I made all my courses free with We Hack Purple, I thought people wouldn't. So now that I know what happened, I'm like, oh, that was a weird assumption. But I'm like, no one will ever want to hire me again for live training because now they can just get it for free. Why would you buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? Sort of. I don't know if you know that expression, but
Yeah.
why would you rent Tanya when you could just watch Tanya for free on the internet? But people started hiring me more, and I was like, oh, and so I would take vacation days, and some grab gives you a lot of vacation. It's the most of anywhere I've ever worked. They're European in the way they give vacation. They give a lot of vacation.
Okay, in comparison.
And so they're super generous and yeah, go do your training. It's cool. But I was having more and more people ask, and I was like, And then I wrote this new book and people are like, can you like dive deep into JavaScript now? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And so then I was just like, it pays a lot better than a full-time job can to work for yourself. And so, after much discussion and agreeing, and I'm like, let's finish these projects together and do these things. And then I'm going to go, like, it was a course of many months, us deciding together. They're like, but we're still going to, Semgrep and I are still friends. And we're still going to do stuff together. Like we're going to do an event at Sector in Toronto in October. But I'm like, I'm just going to work for myself again. We're still friends, but we're not going steady. You know the expression.
It's yeah.
But so what's coming is, so for now I'm doing, so Security Awareness Month is in October. So I'm doing like a trillion Security Awareness Month talks because I always do. And so I'm like starting to like book those and schedule all of those. But I'm doing security training. So like secure coding in JavaScript or Python, or I'm doing an embedded contract. So like C++ embedded medical systems, which is like super cool. And so I do live training, but I'm planning in the coming months to open another community academy platform, because as I'm developing more and more content for all my brilliant clients, they're like, hey, do you have content on this? And I'm like, no, but I should. And so I'm thinking for the new book I wrote, Alice and Bob Learn Secure Coding, I covered 10 languages and 8 programming frameworks, and then 5 new technologies like WebSockets, serverless, etc. I'm like, each one of those needs some sort of course. And so I'm still figuring out exactly how I'm going to arrange that. But my plan is to start recording those. And also, like, I love a place where I can just engage with people more regularly, because social media is not the best way to engage, especially since Twitter's sort of like fallen apart.
Yeah, I
Right?
mean, Twitter falling apart, LinkedIn algorithm is also becoming like post from 2 weeks ago. So how can you actually like quality engage for something from 2 weeks ago? Yeah.
I agree. LinkedIn it's very odd. Like I get between 20 to 50 messages every day. So it's a great place for people to contact me. But for trying to send, so like after we're on this podcast, I'm going to share the podcast with people and I'll put it on LinkedIn, and the algorithm will be like, how dare you share a link to somewhere else?
Yeah.
Downvote, right? And it's like, yeah, but I still want people to see me and Alexandra be nerds together. So I'm still going to put it on there.
Yeah,
So
I think
having a
it's.
place, but just like you have this podcast so people can engage with you, I feel like I need a place where people can talk to me directly, if that makes sense.
Are you planning to start like a Slack community?
No, something much more thorough than that. Like I want to
Okay.
have, so when I give training, it's like expensive. Like when I give it to a big company, it's expensive. And so I'm thinking of doing live trainings that are open to the public, so it can be a lot less. So like if someone has a team and there's 7 developers on there, I'm not going to charge them the same as I would charge this giant enterprise. Like it just doesn't, so it's not worth it for me then, or it's not worth it for them. And so if I make, like Secure Coding 101 on a certain day, then they could buy seats and it's way, way cheaper than like hiring me to come in for a private event. I want to have like office hours, and also I want to start, this might sound dumb, but We Hack Purple we had a book club for sci-fi books, and I discovered like
Okay.
all my favorite books through all the amazing We Hack Purple people. And so I want to do another one of those.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
depending
I
on the
love
time,
books.
you can sign me up. I did a book club back in Paris with some friends. Well, didn't continue because I actually started just before I moved to the Netherlands, and it's kind of person. It was an person thing where we picked one book, more like a round robin kind of thing, where everyone submitted one they wanted, and then just round robin what gets picked. So yeah, that's always nice to learn from other people. Even apart of the podcast, I always ask people what book would they recommend. So could be
I love
a
books.
good idea.
I love them. I'm reading 4. So I just finished 2 books this week, but I was reading 4 at the same time, and I was like, oh, my brain, this is a lot. More than 2 at a
Yeah.
time is a lot.
2 per week is usually a lot. I mean, if they're really good, I can understand, because sometimes I get obsessive and I just read one book per day, which is like 500 pages. I have very obsessive personality, so it just depends on that. But you're going to focus a lot on the coding languages. Like there is a lot of talk about also AI. Is it something that you are looking to explore? Like how, for example, build a course, how for the developers or for data scientists build, secure AI systems, or maybe, I don't know, even, secure MCP.
Yes. I feel like so many developers right now are vibe coding that if I don't address it in every single class, that then there's a problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it sounds weird, but I've always like focused a lot on reviewing code. So we'll talk about, okay, so here's a secure coding practice that you need to do. Okay, so let's say it's input validation, because that's the first thing that everyone needs to learn. So then let's look at a bad example of this. We get something from the user, we don't validate it, and then we send it to the database, and then bad things happen.
Yeah.
So I'm like, let's review this. So what do we see here? And then of course they're like, well, there's no input validation. I'm like, oh, so that's probably bad, right? Like, yes. So then we start looking at like how to implement it, and we kind of improve until it's really good. And right now what's happening is developers are vibe coding, and me too, right? So like I'm making examples and I'm getting AI to help me. And luckily, it pretty much always makes my bad example off the bat. Like it's gonna get better, but right now it's still like having problems, right? And so the average developer hasn't had any secure coding training at all. And junior developers it's even harder. It's almost like when children learn to read, it's much harder for them to read than for you or I, who've been reading forever, who like eat books, right? So for us, it's like you don't even think about it. It's so effortless for you as you read. But for a junior developer reading code, it's quite effortful. And so they're using a lot of effort just to understand the code at all that's coming out of the AI. And then on top of that, we're asking them to review for security. And if they don't know what to review for, that's a problem. And so each course, like talking about how to use the AI to help you check, to help you review, what types of things it should review for, what you should review for. Because like if you don't understand the code, you just like, if you get to write an essay for you, you shouldn't hand it in at school if you haven't read it. I had someone write me a letter the other day, and they clearly had the AI do it because it said insert person you want to mentor's name here. And it had like a whole bunch of things where they had it. And I'm like, well, let me give you your first mentoring lesson. You should read things before. And I'm not trying to be snarky. I'm telling you, like, this is embarrassing. And if I wasn't planning to reject you, I would have rejected you based on this. And like you won't find someone that's going to go out of their way and do something for you for free for hours and hours and hours at a time if you won't even read a form letter you're sending to them. It's disrespectful. And so you are responsible for your own work. They did not write back. But it's a lesson, right? And so if you're going to hand in code, like you need to fully understand it. And then I have some checklists of things that I give the students of like, you want to review for these things. And so I would like to, I have some ideas about creating my own MPC server and like my own, like, here's like tons of Tanya's research and checks and all of these things, and have it like automatically do it before they get the code. But I need some time, and I have to choose between that and opening the community. And I feel like the community's going to win.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Probably, as I think that's why maybe people are actually asking you to come and train them live, because I think that's the trend that we see no matter the industry, in development, in say in marketing. That's something we see as well with junior people that are entering the field that don't have that critical eye and that are using AI. And actually, I think those checklists that you're building are super helpful, because at least if you sit also with people in person and send them and show them what to do, it will help for them to learn and remember, hopefully, in the long run. And not just blindly, trust the AI to do that. But for example, discuss, but what stops the companies, for example, to create, their own AI systems built on your knowledge and your checklists? How would you feel about that?
If I got payments, I would feel really good about it, but I suspect
It's not going to be the case.
Yeah. Um, so for listeners, before the show, I was talking to Alexandra about all sorts of contracts I'm being sent right now. And I'm sure all of you listeners are being sent contracts too, where you might not realize there's a clause where the AI gets to train on you. And so I recently have had contracts where it's like, we're going to train the AI on your voice and then use it to narrate audiobooks and not compensate you. Cool? Not cool. And we're going to train it on phone call, like consulting phone calls that you did in the past. And then we're going to use it to answer clients' questions. You will not be compensated. Not cool. We're going to train it on pieces of intellectual property you gave us. And so like if I sold a piece of intellectual property, they're allowed to do whatever they want with it, right? There's usually a moral clause, which means they can't change it to Tanya says, write insecure code and that's okay, hack the planet. So they can't change the complete meaning. And they also wouldn't be able to, for instance, put someone else's name or face on it. But they are allowed, I think, generally. I think it depends on the country you're in. If they bought the intellectual property, like all of the rights forever, I think they are allowed to. But what if they didn't buy the rights, right? Like if I'm on a podcast, what is the contract there? If I'm teaching a live class, I let people record it. And the idea is it's for internal purposes only. And it's because Alexandra, there's always someone that's sick. And imagine paying a fortune to bring a trainer in and, you're spending everyone's training budget on this. And then they get the flu. You don't want them to come in, make everyone else sick, right? So they stay home and then they've completely missed out. So I'm like, of course you can record it and play it for that person. And if you have a new person starting in 2 weeks from now, play it for them, right? Just don't put it on the internet.
Yeah, YouTube available for everyone else.
Yes, I do not want to see my face on Udemy, okay? I've heard of other trainers see their face show up on Udemy with someone else's name. Oh yeah, that's happened to Troy Hunt a whole bunch of times. He's like, no, I am not selling my course for $10 on Udemy. So I would like to suggest that all people who are sent a contract, that you put it through the AI and ask it what you should be concerned about. Say, is my intellectual property at risk here? Is this a fair contract? Are there terms that I should understand better? You can even say, I don't know what these words mean. Walk me through what these words mean, and then walk me through what they mean in this context. And like, how will this affect me in 5 years? And it will dissect it with you. And it's not the same as having a lawyer, and it's not legal advice. But quite frankly, I always have the AI run through it first, get all those things fixed. And then I'm like, okay, now it's Tanya time. And I'm going to spend an hour and read through this contract very carefully and make sure that I should sign this, because I don't know if you've ever signed a bad contract, but it can be quite painful later. Yeah. And I have.
Yeah, that's how we learn from the mistakes on my side. Luckily, didn't have. I mean, I don't know yet. Maybe I'll find out, in 5 years because I didn't ask the AI before. It happened to me to read the contract and sign in different languages, where I had to ask the AI to translate it completely, 40 pages of the contract, and because you just don't know, figure that out. And I think with the AI, it's afterwards, how, for example, are you being able to detect what's being used unless someone tells you? Because I guess if you mentioned for Troy, someone told him that it was his face on Udemy. I don't know how is someone going to tell you that your training videos on Udemy or YouTube. I don't know, and that's what makes it quite hard.
Yeah, people will often tell me things. People will send me sometimes when my book is being pirated. And I don't mean like one person gives a copy to someone else. I mean like someone's distributing it to like 5,000 people.
Okay.
I had someone invite me to I think it's called Telegram.
Yeah.
Conversation. And yeah, there was like 4,500 people in it, like as a group pirating my book. And I was like, please stop doing that. That was a lot of work.
Yeah, I can imagine. I know, I use Telegram quite a lot, so I know it's very hard for people to listen to, because there are some groups that are very, to say, aggressive. I think that can be also a good word.
Yeah.
For that.
Another time someone messaged me and they're like, you should know that your book is being torrented but it's actually malware. And so it was like, get Tanya's first book, but then it would explode in your face when you opened the PDF. And I'm like, I don't know if I should warn people or not, because like, do I want people to get malware? No, but do I want people to pirate? So I was like, hey, pirates,
Yeah.
just FYI, this is happening. Maybe you shouldn't be a pirate and you should compensate people for their work. P.S. It wasn't me.
Did they reply?
A lot of people were like, the irony is beautiful.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And do you think, since you've been involved quite a lot, with the Canadian government, do you think it's something that should be also regulated on a government level in some way, like the use of intellectual property or AI on the citizens' property? Because like a lot of people are supposed to, pictures online or write blogs, and you never know, like at what point, it should be regulated, because in EU, there are so many people. There are a lot of people that are working on the AI Act right now, on the security part of, well, it's more secure in AI, so it's kind of different level. But in the US, like Trump said, AI, just do whatever with it. What is the good point when it comes to regulations regarding that?
I was a professional musician for a really long time, and I released 5 independent albums and then albums with other, like with bands that I was in. And we have a group in Canada called SOCAN, so SOCAN, and
Okay.
they would track all of our intellectual property and send us checks. They do that internationally, and they have deals with most countries where it's like, listen, you play this artist on the radio, they get money. But then the streaming companies came along, and it got weird because they're a lot harder to track, and also they became more popular than radio. And so I was discussing this with someone yesterday. And so I've been on Spotify since the beginning because I was releasing albums in 2001, right? So that's a long time. And I don't think they have my first album, but they have, I think, 4 out of my 5. And I still get plays sometimes. And apparently people sell my albums on eBay. One of my friends told me he was trying to get one of my
Really?
albums so that he could come up and like get it autographed by me and like just like be silly with me. And he's like, and I've been outbid every time, you should know. And I was like, oh, I had no idea. There's like 100 in my basement that I never
Maybe
sold.
you should start selling your albums. That's a new business opportunity. You can start.
But last year, I actually got a check from SOCAN. And so I haven't been a performing musical artist officially since like maybe 2015, I think was like the last time I did a concert. And then I stopped releasing like independent albums, I think in like 2012 or 13. Like, so it's been like a long time since I've released music. And I got a check for my songs playing on the radio. I have never once received a penny from Spotify for all the plays I've ever had. And so this model doesn't make you a lot of money. So I was talking about that with someone last night about AI, because someone was suggesting that we should do a similar model with AI. Like every time it asks a question and the question comes from your book, you'll get like 1/1,000,000th of a penny. And my friend was saying, well, Snoop Dogg, like who's like a very, very famous musician who gets played a lot, he said when he hit 1 billion plays on Spotify, he went and he did the math and he was paid around $5,000 for 1 billion, B with a B, like B for boy,
Yeah.
not M for money.
I mean, even 1 million, to be honest.
Yeah, like you would want some money for your work, right? And so because he is in a position where he is capable of doing this, he bought back the licenses for his music. I actually could maybe I could afford to buy back the licenses for my music, but I would just, mine aren't wildly popular, like, because I just write more, right? Like I could just write more
Maybe
songs.
new career, in 5 years.
If I want to be
Back to
really, really
musician.
skinny because I can't feed myself. You do not make enough money to live, or as an independent artist, it's very difficult. But anyway, so like if we do a model like that and we license it and I license my book, how much will I make? So for my first book in total, and my first book is a bestseller in many countries. Okay. And I think I made maybe like $35,000 total.
Really?
Yeah, like maybe 30, not very much from to this day. That's not very much money for spending 2.5 years of your life working your buns off. And also, like, I promoted it, and also I sold many of those copies myself through the We Hack Purple Academy, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of copies. And then also like doing book signings at different booths at big conferences where they'll buy, 50 or 100 books. So like at Black Hat, I think we gave away 200 copies. So that's 200 extra copies. And then at RSA, we did like another couple hundred copies. And so I do that as well. So I sold many of those books myself. And like to get only $35,000, right, for all of that work. So now imagine like my new book. What if I only get like $500, right? Like the AI, that's how much I get, right? It's like, why would I ever write a book ever again? Because people are like, when will you write secure design? And I'm like, I don't know if that's coming. Like, it doesn't seem like it's worth it. Or like, I adore my publisher, Wiley. They're amazing. They treat me extremely well. They make sure my books are higher quality, that it gets in more places. But like, would I sell direct then and like do a Patreon or something? Like, do you know what I mean?
Maybe
Like,
that's something that you should, because
right?
I've never paid in Patreon for creator, but I saw a lot of creators that are doing Patreon. And I don't know how well they're doing it, but
Not well.
yeah.
I've talked to a bunch of them and they're like, yeah, I get like $50 a month or $100 a month. There's only one where he told me he does very well at it. And he runs a community and it's a pay what you can for the community. And his community is amazing and wildly active and he does okay. But he's like, oh, I still have a full-time job. Like, you'd be surprised how many really well-known influencers still have a full-time job because they can't pay their bills.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of effort to create content and every single week. Yeah, because
so the Patreon system, although I am grateful for all the people that pay into those systems and they do help, a lot of them tell me like, yeah, I make $150 a month. Like, it's nice. But that it doesn't pay one bill, right? Like, I don't think it would pay well, I have solar panels now. So actually that would pay my electricity bill, but because I don't have a bill now, but do you know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't pay like, I don't know, a different, like, and I have a well, so I don't have a water bill.
Insurance, for example, insurance bills.
Yeah, insurance. There we go. There we go. I'm like thinking, what have I not eliminated?
Well, I know now in the Netherlands, insurance is extremely expensive. Well, not like in the US, but way more expensive than in France. So yeah, bill hurts. Each time it comes.
So we need to find a way where intellectual property is still compensated fairly. And like, if we look at the AIs, what were they trained on? They were trained on my public blogs. They're trained on everything across the internet. And they just took that intellectual property, right? And trained on it. And nothing has happened to them. Right. And so there's a bit of a war going on right now with like the publishing industry and the AIs. And the AI, I don't know if you know, in the United States, they've won the first battle where legally right now they can buy one copy of my book, train their AI on it, and that's it. That's the only compensation I get. So I get 15% of the price of that book, and that's all I get. So I get, I don't know what, $2 for a giant company to train their yeah. And it's like, oh, that was totally worth 3 years of my life.
Yeah.
So I feel like we have to come up with something, or maybe people will do something like what I'm going to do, where I'm creating a private community and I'm going to have a lot of it be free, but you have to have a login because the AIs can't log in, right? And that's a little bit of it, is that we're going to protect things.
I think, yes, sometimes it's hard because there will be eventually AI now that can log in, because for now, for example, with web scrapers, you can already log in and use, like, despite sometimes the code that needs to come to you. I just know because, well, but I know, for example, sometimes like web scraping, and you can just use a tool where it automatically detects after one time your login. So probably people can find somehow, hackers login of someone else and just keep on logging it and using a community, especially if we're working, in cybersecurity. So people might know how to do that. Unfortunately,
I know if someone wants to pirate, I know they will be able to, but what I mean is that legally they would be breaking intellectual property laws. Does that make sense? Because it's not publicly available. If they trained their AI on it, and how would I prove that? That would be very difficult, right? But it's like I've put a barrier or a boundary or whatever you want to call it, and they've crossed it at that point. And like our like if someone's training their own little model for their own personal use, that's not the person I'm concerned about, right? If someone's like, oh, I'm building my first AppSec program, and I bought both of Tanya's books and I'm going to scan them in so that I can use it at work personally, that's not fine with me personally. Like, I'm like, meh, you bought the book, thank you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's the I'm going to buy one copy and serve 4 billion people. That's the one I'm worried about.
Yeah, when it comes, at scale, and when it's used, as you mentioned before, organizations using it in the contracts, and then if it's an organization like a huge consulting firm, yeah, it's for several thousands developers, if not more, that they're using for a whole life cycle of organizations at scale, and everyone they're onboarding, on and on, which is much harder to do. You want to kind of also mention before that you're going to focus on the community, focusing on different languages and building courses out there. Have you thought about LinkedIn Learning? Is it something that you would want to do? Because I see some creators doing it in cyber, and I've watched one of the course, for example, of James Bertotti that he did. Is it something that you're considering as well?
I did a contract with them and they screwed me so bad, I will absolutely never consider working with them again. I'm furious with them. Yeah. Yeah. I re-recorded a course for them and spent thousands of dollars, and they backed out last minute for no reason, and I got nothing. And they're super dismissive too. They're like, oh, sorry, we just changed direction. I'm like, no, that took weeks of work. That cost thousands of dollars to have that edited. They're like, well, you could use it somewhere else. I'm like, I recorded that for you. Yeah. So I also, like, I was going to do it for the exposure, but I don't really think I need exposure now because that was years ago.
I think you're pretty much known in the industry. I think everyone knows you.
I feel like in AppSec they know me. What I want to do is get into developer circles. Surprise! I've joined the OWASP top 10 team. The OWASP top 10 risks for web apps, and we're writing a new one, and it's coming out in November or else.
Okay.
So the OWASP top 10 2025, it's going to come out. And so we're already, we've done our data call, and we are currently like analyzing and categorizing the data. So we're going to do a call out to the community soon on different categories. And anyway, so we're working our buns off. And I was thinking that I would make a course about that and then give that away for free in like a whole ton of different developer communities, like just approach lots and lots of different platforms and say like, because what we want to do is the top 10 team, it's an awareness document, right? And we want to make people aware. And so if I can get into like, as an example, I'm going to try for free code camp. I haven't called them yet, and see like, will you allow this to go in your thing? Because the more developers that see it, the more we win, right? And if I do that for free and just like put it all over the place, that would be great exposure for me, but it would be great exposure for OWASP and the top 10 and like getting people to please not do those things.
Are there a lot of changes if you're allowed to share from the previous one?
Yeah, so we don't know yet. It sounds weird, but we don't know yet. So right now we're deciding what the categories will be because we don't. So there are some individual vulnerabilities and there are categories, and we know we mix them, and we're going to talk about that in the next top 10 of why we do that. But we're trying to finalize the names of the categories and what's included and what's not included. So like, do you just do, for example, failures and error handling? Or do we do failures and error handling, monitoring, logging, and alerting? Because if the error handler is screwed up, that's a certain amount of vulnerabilities fit in there. But if we include, I just did no logging, and also I didn't alert anyone when 400 times someone tried to log in 1 second and it didn't work, right? And so do we include more? because then it definitely floats up into the top 10 or not. And there's new types of vulnerabilities. And like we're talking about, for example, what is included in supply chain and what's not. Because that's changed. That definition has changed and is changing. And when I asked that years ago, supply chain meant third-party dependencies. But now, does that include your CI? Does that include your code repository? And as a person who has lost her professional production code repository, so I didn't lose it. I worked at a place where someone else screwed that up and I had to recover it twice. Complete loss and multiple times semi-loss. And it is so painful, Alexandra.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, it should be on the dev's local machine. What if the dev doesn't work there anymore?
Yeah.
What if it's a legacy thing no one's worked on in a few years, so no one has it? What if like the copy they have is months old because that guy moved on and blah, blah, blah. Like it sucked. And so anyway, so there's a lot of questions that we need to make sure we have consensus on. And so we're going to reach out to the community and make sure that they agree with those opinions and have them vote on some of the names of the categories and the definitions. That's the most important part. Like what we name it is important, but also the meaning of that everyone's not going to agree, but we need to have like a big majority if we're going to make a change. And so a bunch of them will stay the same because quite frankly, everyone is still completely doing a bad job of access control. We suck.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever...
I've heard a lot about access control. Yeah.
So that is not going anywhere. I would love it to not be on the top 10, but it still most certainly is going to be. So yeah, so we're still actively working on that. But like, wouldn't that be a great way to get awareness for OWASP and awareness for developers and awareness for all the things? And then I can get exposure bucks, which my bank totally accepts for mortgage payments. Oh yeah.
I mean, exposure can be converted into the dollar value. Depends how, if you get, enough videos, views on YouTube, for example, on,
you could get a penny.
A big developer channel, you can get, something for ads, I would guess.
I know someone with 2 million subscribers on YouTube, and he still has a full-time job and barely makes anything.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. YouTube's not the way to make a ton of cash.
No,
it is a good way to gather up people and form a following to bring them somewhere else.
Usually it's being brought on Instagram, at least depending on what you do, but or private communities. Or have you thought about, for example, involvement more like you mentioned on, for example, applications that's being deployed locally? It is a problem. What about like cloud native foundations or those groups where they're focusing really more on, let's say, building applications in the cloud and kind of mix of infrastructure people and development people?
The DevOps folks.
Mm.
Like, I mean, I would say I would group those in with the DevOps folks for sure. Like where you wear all these different hats at the same time.
And
if you know that
sometimes
expression.
DevSecOps, or what's your thought on DevSecOps right now?
DevSecOps, like it started out so good, Alexandra. It seemed fantastic. And then, so I've been submitting this conference talk and it keeps getting rejected. It's called Crushed by the Backlog, the DevSecOps problem no one wants to talk about. And since it keeps getting rejected, I guess people really don't want me talking about it.
I mean, the elephant in AppSec conference, for that.
Right? Yeah, it would be a great talk for that. Because I talk to companies and they're like, yeah, we have 40,000 criticals in our backlog. What the F do we do? And the ASPM companies are all claiming, oh, yeah, we ingest that and we do all these things. And now you just have 400. And I'm like, okay, where'd they go?
Yeah.
Where'd they go? Because they didn't get fixed. And like some things I don't think you need to fix, right? Like if, let's say you have a TLS warning. So your certificate is self-signed or you're using an older version of TLS. Well, if it's behind my firewall, that's like pretty low risk. Like I'm like, yeah, like someone could pivot and do some stuff, but no one's going to break TLS 1.0, do all the work to get behind my firewall and then break TLS 1.0, like unless they're a nation state. And I'm like, is that the level of attack I'm looking at? Like, okay, so I know that doesn't feel so super critical to me right now, but like some things, they're like, oh, there's this or there's that. How do you know there's that? Well, our policy states we should have that. Do we have that? Because just because we have a policy that says we're supposed to be doing X doesn't mean we're actually doing X every time, right? And so I would need to look, because marketing's great. You know this. You do marketing.
Yeah.
But does that happen 100% of the time? I don't know. Right? Like,
I mean,
I don't know.
usually the problem is that sometimes actually a lot of focus on automation rather than on security when it comes to DevSecOps and plugging
Yes.
different tools and just say, okay, I've scanned that, I've built this automation, incredible, and but is it secure after this automation? That's
Yes.
kind of a question as well.
Yeah, one of the things like about the OWASP top 10 is that you can't use an automated tool to find all of them. I've had a lot of people get, like from tool companies, get very frustrated about that in the past, like before I joined the team. And it's like, well, we can't find all of them. That's not fair. And it's like, well, attackers can find all of them.
Yeah.
That's the part I'm worried about. Right? I'm worried about a malicious actor finding a business logic flaw in my app. And that's because we didn't do a good job of designing. Like we didn't do threat modeling. We didn't do security user stories. We didn't have very good security requirements. We didn't do a security architecture review. Like there's all these things that we could do and we didn't do any of them, or we didn't do all of them, or whatever, right? And I feel like, so DevSecOps is really good at automation. It's really good at creating this giant backlog. We're getting better at giving a bit more context so you can decide what you do and do want to fix, but it's still not finding like lots of things that attackers can still find. I feel though, if an automated tool can pick it up like that, you absolutely need to fix it, right? So like automated tools are good at finding injection. Injection's terrifying. You really need to fix that. I do not want to have that in production, period. Especially not if it's like even behind a firewall. For me, it's extraordinarily important. But before like out on the public internet, oh no. And so like if an automated tool can find it, that means, excuse my bluntness, a moron can find it, right? You're not facing a super advanced threat actor. If you can scan something with a DAST and find it in a couple minutes, you need to fix all of those because non-advanced threat actors can find them. But I feel like DevSecOps gave people permission to just stop there. Like I remember I got this consulting call where this company was like, we need you to help us talk to the board and like help us talk about metrics. And so all their metrics were just automated scans and what is or is not being fixed. And I'm like, okay, but what about the rest of your AppSec program? They're like, this is our AppSec program, and we need you to help us write this so that the board will just F off because we're doing a great job and that's our whole program. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't have security requirements. Like you don't have any sort of like design security phase. Like you don't have any manual testing for your more important apps. You don't even have an assessment of what your most important apps are that need a manual assessment. Like you're not doing any education. There's no policy. And they're just like, our program's good enough and you're going to help us write a thing that says this. And I was like, oh, now I have to spank you. Shit. I'm getting such a bad rating on this call. I am getting 0 more calls from this client. I'm like, I feel your AppSec program's incomplete and that's why your board's bitching at you. Cause like I bitch at you too. So that didn't go very well, like Sandra. Telling the truth doesn't always go well. No, but they felt, so like DevSecOps made people feel like that is their whole program. I'm like, no, that's a giant failure. You have one part of your whole SDLC covered and you're doing a great job of that one part. But like, it's like for exercise, all I do is this one calf stretch. I stretch my calves so well. I don't stretch any other parts of my body. I never lift anything and I never move, but I'm so fit. Right? I also just eat popcorn and never eat anything else. What's the problem? right?
And
And yeah,
I think sometimes it's also because what's everything also available. Well, firstly, the pressure internally, but also content that's all available, online. As you mentioned on the marketing side, like when I was thinking about the podcast, I came across like a lot of posts because I just searched, for DevSecOps on LinkedIn, and the posts that were there, you can see that it's not being created by someone with a deep knowledge of security. So it's very, tough to see. So on this season, I also have one question that I ask all my guests. Well, I kind of got that DevSecOps is definitely a kind of a buzzword, but what is you think the most overrated buzzword right now?
AI.
AI?
I feel like vendors are promising that AI is going to be perfect and do everything you've ever dreamed of. It's the level of quality is extremely different from company to company.
Yeah.
And it's very, very hard to assess for yourself. So it's extremely time consuming. So doing a POC, like a proof of concept with a product, takes time, right?
Yes.
So you want to narrow it down to just 2 or 3 products because you're going to take a lot of time doing them. You do the POC, it takes months to see if it's actually good or not,
Yeah.
right? And then you choose a tool. Now we've added AI to all of these tools. And so it's like, oh, the AI is saying, this 80% of the results are false positives and we can just ignore them. Shit, can we? So now I'm like looking through those results and I'm like, is it true positive or not? And then did the AI do it correctly or not? So it's like another level of thing to assess. And it's prioritizing things. It's offering automated fixes and stuff like that. Like there's all sorts of different AI tools and I think it's great, right? Like, but guess what? As the person that's purchasing this product, you are now training this company's AI for them by being like, nope, that wasn't a false positive. You were wrong. No, actually, that was a false positive. You were wrong, right? And so the customers are doing a lot of this training and
It
it's
depends.
effortful.
Customers ask as well a lot if the training is being done, because more and more on the vendor side, they have to fill in the AI trust questionnaires that explain whether or not your data is being used for the AI training purposes. At least that's what we have to do quite a lot, and that's what I've seen more and more there. So that's a positive thing, because also a lot of companies, realizing that this might be happening. And I think, if in the beginning you're very transparent about that, that's usually good. And it's like we circle back, to what you mentioned at the start,
Transparency.
transparency. And also, like, if someone junior doesn't know if yet of the vulnerability is that critical or not, they can't assess critically whether or not the AI criticality score is correct. Which is,
I do think it's an improvement on before. I do think, well, okay, so I know that there are some companies that they just toss the AI in there and it's not going to be good. But I think overall, generally, it is an improvement. And compared to, running a static analysis tool and getting 30,000 results, having the AI come along and say, you only have 4,000 results now. Like it's still overwhelming, but it seems a lot better. But I feel like in the next year or two, the AI is going to get a lot better. Okay, how about this? I really, really, really hope, and I feel optimistic that it's going to really...
I really hope, as you mentioned, business logic vulnerabilities that are usually able to find only by the manual, for example, pen testers, that AI will be able to find better and better. I think that's at least the hope for us.
Yeah, I think that would be great, because pen testers are brilliant and amazing and thorough, but you can't always afford one. And so if it's like for the most important systems, you have that manual test, but for all the other ones, it's like if you could actually still have a really good test for business logic, that would be so nice. Because lots of us, guess what we're doing? We're just releasing anyway.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, or fixing at the rate that is very low. Because I've talked with someone like off the show, and they said, they're fixing basically 1 or 2 vulnerabilities per week, because
it's very, very common that basically, I have a friend and she does secure coding training, because I have all sorts of friends that are trainers, right? And she said she was doing training last month And the CEO came in and yelled at all the devs, I don't care about the security crap. You're still going to release on time. And if you don't release on time, you're fired. Releases come first. And then he left. And she's like, and literally you could cut the tension with a knife. It was so awkward. And like, here I am, like, we could do this and we could do that. And she's like, and then everyone just seemed like terrified for the rest of the day. And it was like the worst training contract I've ever had. And so, I mean, it shows priorities, right? I couldn't imagine someone just coming in and screaming partway through my lecture either. Like, talk about rude. She's like, everyone, let's take a break.
Yeah, that's not. I think it's very extreme. Like the whole situation is very extreme because, yeah, it's like screaming in general in a work environment. It's not something that should be happening.
Yeah, it's not appropriate.
Thank you so much, Tanya, for coming on the show. It was a pleasure chatting with you. I think so far it's actually also the longest episode in this season, which is great because I think you have you've started a new path, and I'm really looking forward to see, where it's going. And please, I'm very looking forward also to have your talk on the conference because that's where it gets accepted, no problem.
Thank you.
The stage. So thank you so much. And yeah, I was excited to chat with you again.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. It's always a pleasure.